guys, welcome back to Journey Teachers. It's a wonderful morning today. We are shooting an early morning podcast in an outdoor location. I am so happy to have Akriti with me. Hi Akriti.
Hi Kriti, thank you so much for having me here. And it's so good to meet you early morning, like you said. I think it's a good, bright day today. So, looking forward to our conversation.
Looking forward. Thank you so much for coming here. And Akriti is a wonderful poet, a storyteller. At the same time, she's from the media industry, and we'll talk a lot about her profession, her learnings, her life journey all together. And she has wonderful experiences to share with you guys. So let's welcome her. And how is the day going as of now?
So, I think the first thing I got up in the morning and I was super excited. I was like, I really want to, this is because this is my first podcast experience. I really wanted to be, prepared for it. And then I was like, maybe I should just relax and enjoy the entire process rather than, thinking about how it's going to be. And I think that is working wonderfully because as soon as I met you, I'm like, this is great. Like the vibe is great, and I'm looking forward to how this goes ahead.
And I think our names are also
Yes, Akriti and Kriti. So guys, don't get confused, please.
Yeah, wonderful. So let's first start with your life journey. How has your journey been?
Sure. So I belong to Madhya Pradesh. So I was born in this place called Jabalpur, and now my parents are retired and settled in Bhopal. So I've changed a lot of places while growing up because my dad is a veteran in the cement industry in India. So he's changed a lot of groups, and I've grown up in multiple places because we moved a lot. So I think that's been a very great highlight about my life because when you start going to new places every few years, you start to kind of meet different kind of people, and that is one thing that helps me with my personality also to be able to talk to people, to be the icebreaker in most of the rooms. So that is what I would like to tell you about my life journey to begin with. Now, coming to my professional journey, like I did my education, I did my MBA in marketing and sales from Wellinkar in Mumbai. And after that, I got placed with the Tata Group. So I worked in their IHCL vertical, which is their hotels. So I was, my first job was with the Taj Mahal Palace in Colaba in their sales team. So I was into corporate sales. So that hospitality was the one that became like the beginner of my career. And after that, I worked with Dine Out, which was a part of Times Internet back then. And that was again related to hospitality. So it was about restaurants and luxury dining. So that was another stint that I did in hospitality. After that, I was introduced to media. So I shifted to Bangalore, I think 5 years back. And that's when I started my first stint in media. I worked with LBB in Bangalore, Little Black Book, and now it's acquired and owned by Nykaa. So I worked with LBB, then I worked with Men's XP and IGEVA in Times Internet, and now I'm working with Network 18 Group. So that's been my professional journey and the media stint.
Wow, that I think that's a crazy journey because you have been experienced to a lot of industries and a lot of exposure. So how was it working with the Tata Group?
I think when it comes to work ethics and the kind of care that Tata Group takes with their employees, I think it's matchless, and I think everybody in India knows about that. And the group and the leadership is known for that. So in that ways, I think we were very well taken care of. So you would want to go that extra mile in your job also because you are so fulfilled otherwise. So I think that is the main takeaway that I had from my experience in Tata's. And I feel in today's time with the corporate world being very hectic and very fast moving, when you see that a company cares for you, I think that is very important. So that is one thing that I really, really admire about the group. And I think that's across verticals with Tata's. So yeah, that's my great learning from that group.
Were you hit by the demise of Ratan Tata since you had actually worked
Yes,
with
it hit us hard. And that was the time when I came in touch with my ex colleagues from there, and we all were a little heartbroken that the greatest of greats from the Tata Group. He's not there anymore. And I remember that I had also seen him come to the hotel a lot of times for his, business needs, etc. He was such a humble person. He would, it was in his aura. Like when you would see him, you would see that he's a great person with, zero ego. And that's a rare personality to find in today's time. So I think he was the one of the greatest that I have seen in the corporate world, and who is as simple as possible. So yeah, that's true. It was a heartbreaking news to come
Yeah,
across.
that's true. There's nobody like him
Yes,
now. So, how did your transition from hospitality to media actually happen? What
sure.
was it like?
Yeah. So actually, I got married in 2018, and that's when I shifted to Bangalore. And in 2018, beginning of the year, I was still with Dine Out under Times Internet. And that time, when I shifted, my husband was also a part of the same company. That's how we met. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't want to work in the same workspace, and he also agreed about that. Yeah, maybe you should try something new. So after settling down in the city, I started applying, and I came across one opening in Little Black Book, and I used to follow them on Instagram because they had these hidden gems of the city, and where what is the new restaurant coming up. So it was always like this platform which was so interesting. And I started figuring out a lot of things about Bangalore through LBB Bangalore. And when I saw okay, there is an opening, I was like, oh, let's apply for this. This is like probably my next thing if I get through. And universe worked in my favor, and I got the opportunity to work with them. And I that's how my first exposure to media happened. That's when I learned about the basics of media industry, and it was very energetic environment that the brand had. And it was a startup at that time which had gone into multiple cities. So there's a lot of good exposure about how content is made. So my understanding of how important content is, what are the kind of formats that work, and how ever changing and fastly evolving that industry is everything that I picked up from there. Yeah.
What skills do you think your life journey maybe have helped in the media industry, or maybe whenever you are doing sales?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is communication skills. When I say communication skills, I know it sounds very obvious, but I'm not talking about just having a nice conversation with someone, but also I have seen that in sales, the most amount of deals that I have cracked with brands and clients is because of relationship building. Of course, there has to be a requirement on the other side also. Sometimes you need to help them figure out the solution also to that requirement, right? And that would happen when you build on a relationship. Maybe if I start talking to a client, say on day one, probably till day 365 I'm not getting anything, but you never know, on day 400 I crack a deal with them because I've built that relationship with them. So it's always very good to have communication skills. And one strong tip that I would give anybody in this field is that don't always talk about work with clients. I'm telling you, like, when you give a personal touch, when you share about yourself, your life, your day, general things which are beyond work, I think that is what helps you build a rapport with a client and brand. And it's also a process you'll enjoy rather than taking it as a task that, I have to get some business out of them, understand the brand and all. You don't take that pressure. You enjoy the process, and enjoying the process, I think, is the way that anybody in any field should look at their profession as. So that's what I would.
Do you remember an example when you did relationship building with a client or a brand?
Yes. So I was working with this hospitality brand itself, and we were trying to figure out how can we make content to because it's already a well-established brand. So how do we talk about the brand in a way that whatever new they are coming up with in terms of cuisine, in terms of renovations, etc., in terms of themes. So how do we come across that? And there are basic things that you could suggest according to the product you are, or the platform you are selling. But what we did was we caught up a lot on various occasions, And I also invited my client to other events, etc., that we were doing as a platform. I wanted them to see how we work, how we look at approaching, content. And when that happened, I met them multiple times after that, and they started, opening up about how their journey was and what are they passionate about and all those things. We took notes of that. We went to our ideation team, worked with them on how to communicate this new campaign for them, because they were done with the ideas in general. So because of that rapport, they gave us insights which they wouldn't have given otherwise, right? So I think the rapport there helped me build that campaign with them, and then we made sure that we delivered on it. So that was a teamwork, like from both the sides, from the client side, from our side. And of course our ideation team was bang on, and they caught the entire vibe of the client and how they want their brand to be seen. So I think multiple meetings and building that rapport, getting their trust, and our team also trusting them with the insights they are giving. So that was a teamwork that really helped us crack it. So I think that is one
I think
example.
it works for the client as well, because
Yes.
when you are able to deep dive into their journey, their requirements, it
Correct.
works the best for them as well.
Yes.
So, what do you think are the skills which are necessary for a sales pitch and to sell something to somebody?
Okay. So the first, most basic, the strongest skill is do your research. If I'm meeting a client and I do not know what they are doing right now in the market, say for example, there are brands that are coming up with IPOs. You have to understand their journey, how they have reached the place of an IPO. If they are coming up with an IPO, then probably they are wanting to look at a lot of branding activities so that people build that trust and also invest in their IPO, right? This is just an example. So you need to know what the brand is doing currently in the market, what is the how their image is in their own forte. You need to understand their competition. So once I enter a meeting room, I know who their competition is. I know what their strength is. I know probably what their weakness is also, because I've already seen the competition set as well. So when you know that, the conversation that you will end up doing on the table is going to be very relevant and very focused on what would help them. So I think research is the basic thing that I would say. And sometimes we are in a hurry. We have multiple things to take care of. We don't read much, and then when you enter the room, you sound as if you're not much aware about the industry. So never do that, because then they will take you as any other salesperson. But if you know what they're doing, where they are right now in their journey, that is a great way to portray your platform and the strength that you have. So
Do you think I did enough research on you for asking these
I
questions?
think I think that comes naturally to you. I think your research abilities are great. So I remember I had met you in the poetry event, and I've seen you performing multiple times as well. So that was great, and I think because of the other skills, like the passions and the hobbies that you have otherwise, I think that will also help you in this journey as well, because it's helped me. So that is what I would say.
As you mentioned, we have met in various poetry events.
Yeah.
How did the aspect of poetry come into after all
Sure.
this hospitality and
Sure.
going into the sales
Yes.
business?
Actually, a great question. So I used to write a lot in my college days, and in fact, after my first job, I was thinking that I'll get into content writing, and I tried also, but then I realized that there's a lot of there is technical writing, and then there is freestyle writing that we do for different kinds of platforms. I was like, that's a skill that I do not have, because writing to express your emotions and poetry is a little different. But when it comes to having it as a profession, you have to learn a lot of things as to how industry languages work and what kind of copywriting works. So you need to have that information. And because I was not from a mass media background, so I didn't have that exposure. So then I just pursued it as a hobby in my free time. In fact, fun fact, I started a Instagram page of my English poetry, which I did not tell anybody, but I just used to post on it and all that. And then after a year or so, life got so busy, I stopped writing, and that page, it still exists on Instagram. I'll tell you after the podcast. And then uh, when I seriously came into it was just the start of mid of last year actually. So because of hectic lifestyle, there were so many emotions that were, being built up over a period of time. And me and my best friend, her name is Umehani. So we both were taking a trip. We went to Kasol, and this was like our, you know spiritual trip. Yeah, let's let go of everything kind of a thing, which
Just free
all
the
of us
mind.
come into a midlife crisis,
Yeah.
and we want to go to the mountains, and mountains are calling, though mountains are not calling you, you only want to be there. So it was that kind of a trip for both of us. And it so happened that because we were so relaxed and everything, I just wrote a piece and I shared it with my friend. And then my friend said, dude, you write really well, why don't you make something out of this? So at that point I was like, yeah, it'll need a lot of time, and with our jobs and everything, becomes very difficult to be consistent on it. And then she's like, hey, maybe you should just give it a try, we'll see how it goes further. So I was like, yeah. And then I started thinking about it, that let's start an Instagram page, let's get in touch with a few editors who don't who know who can help you make a page look better and consistent and beautiful in the format that you want to be in. So that is how my journey of writing started, which is just last year. And I think as in when I started writing, so whatever emotions I had even for from years back, that also I started processing while writing. So I think it really helped me on a personal level and also on a very spiritual level, because that is when you get in touch with your own self, you start understanding yourself, what the concept of finding the self and all of that. That happened to me from this entire process. So I am very grateful that that trip happened. I went to the mountains, and of course for getting that kind of support through friends and family. So yeah, that's how it started.
So was the goal to write for yourself or to share with the world as well? What do you think is the priority in your mind?
Yeah, so when I started off, it was just to process my emotions. But like I said, that I shared it with few friends, and they really resonated with it. And I was like, probably there are others out in the world who feel like I feel. And what if they connect with what I'm writing? So I then started the decision of posting it properly, and on Instagram, and being consistent on it. So I promised myself that, Akriti, you have to be consistent this time. And when I saw that actually people from all over India started, following the page and commenting on it, sharing how they resonate with my writing, that gave me more motivation to keep doing it. So that's how it is.
What is your motivation? Like, what does your inspiration come from?
So I write a lot about romance. I write a lot about love. I think love is one energy that conquers everything. It is like the light in the darkness, and I think all of us have some form of energy of love in ourselves. We just need to discover it and know how to express it also, right? So I write a lot about that. And of course, when it comes to love, it comes from our life experiences. So the first time I fell in love, how that feeling was, I've written about that. And then there is a spiritual kind of love wherein you feel a connection with somebody which probably seems as if you know them from many lifetimes, right? And that's rare. Not everybody goes through that kind of a love story, but I think I have experienced that kind of love as well in life. And then having a kind of love which also is a beautiful partnership, right? Exploring that. And when it comes to life in general, love is not all roses and everything, right? It's tough. Love is when you actually know the meaning of letting go, meaning of forgiveness, meaning of letting people be in their own space and help them do more in whatever direction they want to do more in. That is love. Love is not about feeling, oh my god, somebody is just blindly in love with me, doing so many things for me. No, that's not the kind of love and that I learned over a period of time, of course. And I think all of us have that journey. We all learn what true love is over a period of time. So I think that was one genre that I've written a lot about, and I still write a lot about it. And another thing, like recently I wrote a piece about my observations about the dark elements in the society, or say negative things happening in the society. So that is again things wherein, you know, I've addressed topics like how women's safety is one of the things. Second is how children are being affected by say technology, the negative effects of technology, how childhood is being affected by it, and how mentality of people is also changing, and even children are now target of heinous crimes. So all those kind of dark aspects I've written about as well. So that's, you know, when you see and consume the news, etc., and you see the kind of darkness that is coming up in the society. So I've written a piece on that as well. I've written a lot about finding self, because I think self love is a very vast concept. Self love is actually also about forgiving yourself for multiple things that you must have felt. It's also about inner child healing. You must have felt a lot of emotions as a child which nobody could help you process. So you grow up, and when you reflect back, you need to talk to that inner child every once in a while and understand how it's doing. So I came across this quote by Matthew Hussey. He had said that, you know, you're born with one person to take care of, okay, throughout your life, and you have to take care of that person as to how they feel, how they hate, how they love, how they eat, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, everything. You are born with that responsibility of that one person throughout the life, and that one person is yourself. So what you do every day when you wake up to understand, hey, how is this person feeling today? What am I going to do to make this person happy today? So if you start living from that thinking, I'm telling you, guaranteed, it will change your life. It will. So that's
I think that's really heartwarming, because self love is something which everybody needs to practice.
practice.
How do you take care of that inner child?
So what I do is I generally, whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, say, or I'm probably, say, let's take an example, I'm feeling very sad or very hurt or very emotional about something that's happened to me. So what I would do in that case is that I will just sit, I'll try and think, why am I feeling that? Why is it hurting me so much?
Acknowledging your
Yes.
feelings.
What is hurting me? What is hurting me is answered. Why is it hurting me? Were my expectations not met, or was I, wanting something, it wasn't given to me? So I ask myself these questions, and most of the time it boils down to something that I would have made up as a concept or a belief when I was a child. So I figure that out, and I sit with that. If I have to cry it out, I'll cry it out, and let the inner child in me know that it's all okay. I'm here. Whatever it is, I'm here. You're safe. So that's the kind of, this is just one example. There are other ways to process it as well. So this is how I process it. And even if I'm very very happy, for example, something great has happened in the day, and I'll get like this childlike energy about it. Now I wasn't like this before, but because I've processed it in this way, now I feel that childlike energy also in my happiness. So I think that's an overall change that this self-love practice does for you.
And tell us about your love story. I think that will, because we have talked a lot about love. So
Yeah.
how did it happen in your life?
Sure. So my first, love story was when I was in school. I think I was just before junior college. I was studying somewhere in Maharashtra, and I had this classmate. Like basically, I had joined that school. It was a new place that my father had shifted to. So I came to a school where everybody was, they were local people, and I was the only one who was an outsider. So I didn't know the language because they all used to speak in Marathi and everything. So little difficult for me to adjust over there initially. And when I entered that school, I think I was a little skeptical that do I want to come for classes or not. I used to try and skip classes, but then there was this one person who had joined in late, and when that person came in, I was like, we had like this moment wherein that person looked at me, I looked at him, and I said, is he in my class? Because I've not seen him for a month in my class. And then that person keeps his bag in the class, and I was like, oh, this is a new person in my classroom. So that was the first person who actually came up and spoke to me from all the boys in my class. Of course, in those times, girls would sit together, boys would sit together, right? Though it was a co-ed, but that's how it used to be. That was the first boy in my class who came up and spoke to me. So I had that soft corner for that person. At least somebody came and spoke to me, because all the other boys had decided that we will not talk to this new girl for 3 months. So actually nobody spoke to me over there for quite some time. So that was my first attraction, you would say. So that's like your first feeling of love. So I think that was how it started for me. I've written also about how first love feels for you. So that was my inspiration again to write about that. Then later in life, like I had 2 or 3 more relationships, great relationships, and long lasting relationships. In our time, I think long lasting is 2 to 3 years. So I think that that way I had a good few relationships over there. In fact, there was one relationship that I was in before I got married, wherein I learned how you need to take care of yourself. It was very, very important how you need to keep yourself as a priority, and that somebody else taught me. So it really matters who you are in a relationship with as well, what their thinking is, what their processing is. So from that point onwards, I kind of learned through love that you should take care of yourself. And if you are in love with the right people, they tell you the good about you, they also tell you the wrong about you.
How?
They'll tell you, you need to work on this, you need to let go of this fear, you need to be more kinder, whatever it can be about your personality. So that is what I learned from that relationship. And then the most important, and I would say the highlight of my life, is my husband. His name is Pawan. So when I met Pawan, he's a very polite guy, very, very nice guy, very sophisticated, and I used to be like this jhalli. So it was exactly like opposites attract. So with him, over a period of like 5 years, I've now been married for 5 years. He is the one person who actually made me understand what taking care of others is. Second is also what forgiveness is. I have learned it through him, and I have seen that a long lasting partnership, the foundation of it is love and care for the other person. You might not have everything that you want in a partner, but if your foundation is sorted, then you build on that. So we have come across a lot of hurdles, emotionally, mentally, all of that in our journey as well. But from him I learned the I say art of forgiveness, and for that I am really grateful to him, because he's a really nice soul, very nice human being, and the one who thinks about everybody. Probably sometimes thinks about himself the last, which he also has now been working on. So I think we are both, changing, evolving together. So I think that's
And completing each
yes,
other.
completing each other. Yeah.
And I can see from the happiness on your face.
Thank you so much.
So
Priti.
was that your inspiration to write about romance, about love?
Yes. These few partnerships have really impacted my life. So I think that also I have taken inspiration from. Of course, friends' ka love story is also something that you get inspired from. So kind of when I write about the pain and hurt that you get through love, I have also been inspired by things that my closest of friends have gone through, and how they process their emotions, how they feel about it. So I've taken a lot of inspiration from others as well. So to be very honest.
True, that makes sense. Do you want to describe an experience maybe from your observation about the society, about women's safety, as particularly you mentioned?
I think what I would say is that now, because the crime against women, girls in general is so common, and people get to know about them so commonly, I think there is a good side to it, that now we all are more aware. We are taking actions towards, working on how to protect ourselves. Girls are now learning martial arts example, just an example. They are being aware what where not to be, what to have people with you when you are going out and all of that. I wish it was a world where they didn't have to think so much, because why should we always be worried about what to wear, when to leave home, when to come back home? It's not fair. It's too much of a pressure for us. The bad side, I would say, of coming across such news and information, I've also seen people are getting ideas of committing more kind of crimes against women, which is really like horrendous. Like I sometimes come across news which is very very heartbreaking. How can you even think of such things, right? So that kind of is very hurtful. So I think where this entire energy that is now coming in the society of protecting women to let them go after their dreams, it's really really good. But I also feel that women themselves only first have to have their walls of protection, because by the time we wait for the men to change, it's going to be a long process. So that is something that I
Yeah.
feel.
I think a lot is happening around this,
Yes.
and it's important for us as artists and writers to
Correct.
speak more about it.
Yes. In
Yeah.
fact, Priti, in one of my recent poetries only, I had spoken about how, childhood of children, like as in, be it a girl or a guy, it's being affected by the adolescence already coming in when childhood, say for example, our childhood, I'm sure like for you also, when we were up to the age of say 14, 15 years, we were busy in our own worlds. We did not think about where to go, what to wear, not to wear short dresses, or all of that. But now I feel bad. Like parents are so worried that they, be it a guy or a girl, again, it's not just women or girls anymore. Even men and boys are not safe. So that is where the world is going. And I had spoken about this, that how the bad thinking from these people are now affecting children and their childhood is getting compromised. So things like this, which I feel, I wish it was not there. I wish people were not impacted by such things, and every child gets to live their childhood in the best way possible, because those are your foundation years. So
Yeah, that's true. I think things are changing for the good, but it's taking a little long process and a journey
yeah,
to go about it.
yes.
So, how do you feel your writing will actually, impact the lives of people when you decide to share it with the world? Because many people are afraid to do that. They always live in the fear that I'll write for myself, I'll keep
Correct.
it to myself, but I'm not open to sharing with the world.
Yeah, I think it was the same case for me, because I used to write for myself, but anybody who is writing, who has expressed their thoughts, be it on whatever, I think they should come to such events, such open mics, give it a shot, just one shot. Because I've seen the kind of audience and performers that we get in such places are so open minded, are so welcoming, so warm, because they all have started just like we have started, right? So they all understand the kind of hesitance that one would have to come and talk about their own written pieces. And I would urge everybody listening to this podcast who is writing in some or the other form, that please, please come and express your emotions, because you never know who is feeling the same thing and you might change their life. So, in fact, just for an example, I recently performed at one of the events, and one person from the audience messaged me on Instagram saying, if it was great meeting you, and because of you, I think I will continue writing and I will continue coming to open mics and performing as well. So that made my day. It was like, that's it, because I had the courage to come and perform my piece. It resonated with somebody and they feel they can also do it. So exactly how this process becomes like a chain and people start coming together. So I
Yeah,
think that is
I
it.
think one writer can really, inspire other people as well. Those are aspiring to become writers, to take the art of writing and continue your journey.
Yes.
So, where do you envision yourself as a writer, and where do you want to take it?
Sure. So I think I still have to learn a lot of basics. I want to understand the basics of the formats in Kavya, the formats in Urdu Shairi. I've yet not started that, but I'm already planning to learn the basics. Once you start that, the kind of expression that you do becomes more, what do you say, deep is what I feel. So I still have a lot to learn because I've just started out. It's been a year for me writing. So I only write in Hindi right now, but I want to start writing in a little bit of Urdu shairi also. So that's my aim, that I want to do that, expand my own horizons, so that I'm able to deliver multiple kinds of things that people can relate to. And I think if you ask me, I still feel my favorite genre is going to be love. It is going to be love always, no matter
Always.
what. Yeah, yeah.
I think love is the forever kind of
Yes,
thing for
yes.
like anybody.
Yes, I think it's the love is that energy which drives me. It's the source of whatever I feel. So I think that is one thing that I'll always hold on to.
And you have described love also very beautifully.
Thank you so much, Kriti. Yeah, and I think people who are listening to this podcast, you should look at Kriti's work. It's amazing the way she comes up with things, the way she has conversations in her poetry. I think that is great, and more people can relate to it, I'm sure.
I think we'll leave the links to both of our
Sure.
pages in description for them to
Definitely.
check them out.
Guys, please follow us, be nice, and comment also. Give us good feedback.
So what is the role of your family has been? For example, you have been shifting to various cities, and
Yeah,
a lot of experiences have helped to shape the person you are today.
sure.
So what that role has been?
Definitely, like, I think I am very grateful to God that I have been blessed with an amazing family. So my parents, and we are four siblings. I'm the youngest one. I have an elder sister.
The most pampered one as well.
I am the most pampered, yeah. But now I've seen that my sister is the most pampered. So because she stays abroad, and she generally visits us once in a year. So parents are a little biased towards her now. And then I have two brothers and then me. So the thing is, in my childhood only, we four were a team. We didn't need a lot of friends outside. We were so busy in our own selves, harassing each other and making fun of each other and all that. We have our own internal jokes, and those are sacred. Like that kind of bonding, touchwood, I have not seen in many people's or many houses. That has come because of the values that my parents have given us, and we were a nuclear family from the beginning. So my parents were protective, but not overprotective. They wanted us to go out, learn on our own, and all of that. And I think that takes a lot of courage from family also, because given the times, it's very difficult to send your child away, right? Where to a city you don't know about, right? So that way, our parents were very, take up challenges, learn more, live life, be street smart. So all of those pushes have come from my parents to all four of us. And I think my exposure to music, to any kind of literature, all of that has come from both my parents. So my dad, he was the one on every Sunday. It was a like a routine. Every Sunday he would sit, he would play ghazals in the house, and he would explain us the literary and the poetic meaning of every line. So that is how my love for lyrics and what it means has come up. So every song that I listen to, if the words hit me, that is when I say ki, this song is great.
Then
So
it
that,
becomes a favorite.
yeah, it becomes my favorite. So what a song is trying to tell you is very important for me to, so that processing has come from my father. My mom used to sing really well, and she had done some classes as a child herself of music and all that, but then life happens, and she didn't pursue it further. But it's amazing that at, at her age now, she is again learning music. So she's learning how to sing again, and so I also do a little bit of singing in my poetry as well. That comes from my mother. So I think whatever inspiration I have for my art is from both of them. And then when I come to emotional processing, I've learned it because of my dynamics with my siblings. Because we are so close knit, you won't believe, we talk every day. We have our own WhatsApp group, which cannot be accessed by anybody else, neither our partners nor our parents. We four have our own thing going on. Each of us knows what each of us is going through. So that way we have that system in place, you know, because of family and the values, and we have made sure that we keep it that sacred. So I think family plays a huge role in where you are, how you look at life, how you process things on a daily basis, emotionally, mentally, physically, everything. So that's why childhood, why do we say childhood is so important? Because it's your foundation years. How you feel, what beliefs you make subconsciously at that time become your way of looking at life ahead. And childhood is most impacted by our family, our parents, or our siblings, or your other family around. So I think family plays the most important role in whatever you are made of.
I love the example of, you telling that you have a private WhatsApp group
Yes.
with your siblings. I think that is the best thing I've ever heard of,
Yeah.
because otherwise there are family groups or, cousins group.
Correct.
But having a
Yes.
good group for yourself,
Yes.
which is just yours, that is
Yeah, and you won't believe the weirdest jokes we make on each other are on that group. Like if somebody sees that group, they'll be like, all these people are mental. So I love that about my family.
What about the people who undergo childhood traumas as well, or maybe their family isn't that supportive?
Yeah.
So what do you think? How do they develop self-love, or maybe move on from those bad experiences?
So in this case, I would say, though I'm no expert, but I always feel that we all are aware that there are certain patterns that we have built because of probably the traumas we have been exposed to. Imagine a simple thing as a heartbreak, or a very hurtful, painful thing like abuse. Both can develop patterns in you, and people don't realize that. And I feel, if you know that there is some trauma that you have gone through, first thing is, please seek professional help. Because I'm not saying ki, oh, you go to a therapist, you have 3 sessions and it's done. No, a therapist will guide you how to process everything that is triggering, that is coming from, is becoming a trigger in your journey because of that trauma that you have had. So first thing, of course, go for professional help. And people think, oh, after 10 sessions I am feeling much better, so this is good. No, take consistent therapy, because you never know when another trigger would pop up and you would again want help. So just because you feel happy, you feel in control, doesn't mean that you stop therapy. So I think people should take consistent therapy to help themselves process it better, be more in a more guided way. Second thing is friends. I'm telling you, the biggest support system. If you cannot find it in your family, please, friends are the best thing. Like most of my, intense emotions, be it pain, hurt, whatever it is, I have processed it because of great friends. So I feel that is one system that every person should have. Have that 2 to 3 go-to people who can be there for you without judgment, without anything. You tell them that you need them and they're there. Be it across the globe, just on a call, you have them and they help you through it. So I think friends are such an underrated thing that people don't understand. You understand later in life that because of your friends, you have let go of so many things which would have been affecting you otherwise. So I feel friends is something that all of us should have.
Friendship, I think, is the best and the
Best.
purest relationship
Yeah,
ever.
best it is. I completely agree with that.
How-
What about you? Like you, I think you might have a lot of friends as well who you help you process things.
So personally, for me, I am a hardcore introvert, and
Okay.
But in my professional life, I don't, make sure that I make connections and a lot of people to connect with, and slowly that quality of making content, recording podcasts, and networking, talking to a lot of people, knowing their life experiences have changed me as a person as
Yeah.
well. I get to learn so much through these podcasts, and I think
Amazing.
I've able to bring a lot of connections.
But I
and
must say, Kriti, you don't seem like an introvert at all. This is crazy, huh? Imagine you being an introvert, but you're able to do so many things which requires a lot of, extroversion in them. It's crazy. This is great. I
Yeah.
think people should learn from this. So this is
I think
great.
slowly it's changing as well. I'm able to build, make connections, and have friends in my life as well.
Amazing.
And of course, they help you if you have somebody to talk to, that's the best
Best
part.
thing. Yeah, I think that itself is a way of therapy and a release of
Yeah.
emotions. So I think that's great. Yeah.
Are you a millennial, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
I am.
how are you able to connect with the Gen Z and
Actually, I have a tough time doing that, to be very honest. But I think generally I've seen this happen to me. If I meet people, they are comfortable to come and talk to me. I've had many such instances wherein random people have just met me and they've opened up to me about a lot of things. And I think the way I connect with them is be a good listener. These people, you Gen Z, are already so informed. Mother, I can't even imagine at that age. I was like probably not even knowing what I want to do in life. You guys are so informed, and it's crazy. Like Gen Z is on top of everything. So I feel it's very very inspiring, and the way I connect with them is listen to them, learn from them as well, because you never know how they can help you with so many things. So and the other part is when I listen to them, I also try and talk more about emotional stuff, because that is somewhere where I feel there is a lack. Gen Z is in the heat of everything when it comes to figuring out your life, your goals, being this, that,
the hustle culture?
the hustle culture.
Yeah.
We were introduced to the hustle culture much later, but Gen Z was born with it. So I think processing of emotions is something that they will always have a struggle with. I feel so. I've seen it also. So I think they should try and meet as many people who are good listeners, so that they are also able to process things and not just keep running away from emotions and running towards the hustle. So that balance, Gen Z also, I think, would benefit from if they figure it out. So yeah.
I think both of us, like the millennials and Z, coexist because it's their time to
Shine.
whether it comes
Yes.
in
Yeah.
terms of work, their professional lives,
Correct.
or maybe the culture which we are surrounded by.
Yeah.
So how easy or difficult was it for you to manage your emotions when you were able to move on from those relationships and finally found your true love?
Yeah. I think I learned it over a period of time that the best way to understand what you're going through is just to sit with it. You have to sit with it. Do not jump into one relation after the other just to kind of forget and move on. You cannot move on. You as in, of course you can move on, but it wouldn't be the right way. It will come back in various forms if you don't process it right. So I ensure that if I'm getting out of a relationship, I take my time before even thinking about getting into anything else, because it takes a lot out of you when you're in a relationship. You are giving, you are receiving, but it's taking out a lot of you, and you cannot fill from an empty cup. Once you go through an ending, it because you're empty, you need to refill yourself, understand why, what happened, what did you learn from it, and what do you want in the next phase of your life, what you do not want. Even if you know what you do not want is good enough. If you don't know what you want, it's fine, but please be sure of what you do not want. So that is what I would say. And always, you can only fill from a filled cup, so take your time. If you get out of a relationship, please do not jump into 10 other things. It's not going to work. It will bite you again. Probably those other relationships will have the impact of your past relationship, because you have not processed or learned and healed from it. So healing is very very important, and that only comes when you sit with your emotions. So that's what I would say.
I believe I have really, heard the true definition of love today.
Thank you so
because,
much.
today is a culture of hookups and situationships. But to find true love in this age and time, I think it's really commendable.
Yes,
And we should be, of course, grateful for that.
correct.
Yeah. So, anything you want to narrate from your writing for the audience? Anything you remember?
Yes, there is one thing, but if I would want to refer to something, is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I had written this and performed this recently at one of the events, and this is about how if somebody wants to express their love to you, how they would say that. So this was called "Tujh Jaisa Khoobsurat." So it goes like, बात फ़िज़ाओं की करूँ या वफ़ाओं की करूँ, बात रंगों की करूँ या कलम स्याही की करूँ, मैं इश्क करूं, इबादत करूं, तेरे दिल की मासूमियत की कुछ यूं हिफाजत करूं। मैं जो भी करूं, जैसा भी करूं, तुझ जैसा खूबसूरत ही करूं। ये शेरो शायरी, ये नज़में, ये गज़लें, कानों में पड़ती ये सुंदर लहरें। मैं डूबूं तेरे ख्याल के दरिया में अगर कभी, मेरी आंखों के काजल के काले सा डूबूं। मैं जो भी करूं, जैसा भी करूं, तुझ जैसा खूबसूरत ही करूं। ये हीर रांझा, सोनी माहिवाल, मिर्जा साहिबान, ये जुनूनी इशकजादे मिल तो नहीं पाए। अगर मिल ना पाऊं मैं भी तुझसे, तो चल तेरे इश्क में लाजवाल बन जाऊं। एक ऐसी बाजी मैं भी खेल जाऊं, शह और मात सी जंग लड़ जाऊं। मेरी सांसों की वो आखिरी डुबकी में मैं स्वाद तेरे इश्क का घोटती जाऊं। फिर राम नाम के जप की हवा में, फिर राम नाम की जप की हवा में एक आखिरी फूल सी तेरी चौखट पर गिर जाऊं। मैं तुझे याद करूं, खुद को बर्बाद करूं, मर के भी तेरा ही आखिरी दीदार करूं। मैं जो भी करूं, जैसा भी करूं, तुझ जैसा खूबसूरत ही करूं।
दिस इज वेरी ब्यूटीफुल।
Thank you so much.
बहुत खूबसूरती से आपने बहुत प्योरली वर्ड्स को डिस्क्राइब किया है। और
Thank you so
बहुत
much.
व्हेन यू आर नरेटिंग ऑल्सो बहुत ऐसे वो इमोशंस और वो एक लहजे में वर्ड्स फ्लो कर रहे हैं।
Thank you.
And
Preeti.
even when you mentioned about the lyrics of any music piece as well, I think that is the best part, because one of my friends also keeps telling me जब भी वो गाना सुनती है, and it's like I remember one example, वो मिट्टी जैसे सपने, वो आंख जितना भी झाड़ो
झाड़ू
फिर वापस
आ
जाते
जाते
हैं।
हैं।
That is this is one example which I can also relate to, and आपके भी जब भी लिखते हैं वो words फिर वैसे
Yes.
flow करते हैं। I
Thank you
think
so
that
much,
is the
Kriti.
best part. So thank you so much, Akriti. I
Thank
think
you so much, Kriti, for having me here. It was so much fun to, have this conversation with you. And I must say this about you. I never felt as if I've not known you. Since the first time I've met you, I think I've known you for quite some time. You have that, comfortable and warm energy to you. So really, really grateful that I've met you. And thank you so much for having me today.
same here. It's my wonderful pleasure, because I think we got to learn so much, and whatever life experiences you shared, your journey, it's really relatable for a lot of people. I got to understand so much how to express emotions, how to have self-love for yourself. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kriti. Thank you so much.